Elon Musk fired one of Twitter's top lawyers. In fact, the second most senior lawyer in the entire company, the Deputy General Counsel, James Baker, no relation to the James Baker who worked for the Bush crime family in the early 2000s, after he learned that this individual was involved in trying to cover up the release of the documents that Elon ordered to be made public, showing who was involved in the decisions and which kind of government officials were contacting Twitter, demanding that certain content be censored, especially the Hunter Biden laptop story. And guess what else James Baker has been involved in? Well, before becoming a senior lawyer at Twitter, he was a senior lawyer at the FBI, and he was one of the inner circle co-conspirators who helped kick off the Russiagate witch hunt against President Trump. Even though the Twitter files basically just confirm what we already knew, the liberal media is extremely upset about them because they're getting people to talk about how corrupt the Biden crime family is again.
What are your thoughts on all of this tomfoolery over the last 24 hours?
Tomfoolery.
I guess with Musk is to prove that, hey, I'm the right kind of Republican, meaning I'm a Trump Republican.
Actually, Elon Musk is not a Trump Republican. He's made it very clear that he would prefer Ron DeSantis in 2024, but please continue spewing your nonsense, sir.
Election denying Republican. I don't know what kind of Republican he is. I mean, probably next year he'll be an independent or a Democrat, depending on how the wind blows. But the reality of it is putting those things back on the platform, juxtaposition with the argument that he's all about free speech, really undermines some of the central tenets of free speech. Is that it is about, yes, the freedom of you to say things, but
yes, him lessening the censorship and admitting that there was censorship is against the tenets of free speech, he says. Go on with your gaslighting, though.
And so when you're perpetuating lies and so forth, you're really kind of laughing in the face of this idea of what the platform he claims is supposed to be. For the party, they love it. I mean, they got one of the world's richest men helping them foment the kind of distrust of the system and disinformation where their fingerprints don't necessarily have to be on it.
No, the disinformation was coming from the mainstream media, as always. Like this hilarious article from Rolling Stone magazine, which claimed that vile, baseless conspiracy theories were spreading about Hunter Biden, and despite pledges to curb misinformation in the lead up to the election, social media sites aren't stopping them, meaning they weren't censoring it enough, blocking links and suppressing it, burying it in the algorithm, not only on Twitter, but on Facebook as well. That wasn't enough. People were still able to hear about it. And who could forget the 50 former and current senior intelligence agency officials who all said that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation and fake news. Of course, they were spreading the disinformation. And this is the cover of the New York Post, "The Spies Who Lie." These are the Operation Mockingbird puppet masters who then feed the disinformation to their willing Operation Mockingbird assets in the mainstream media. Wikipedia, being a major cog in the disinformation machine, is trying to dump the Twitter Files investigation article down the memory hole. The senior editors over there have nominated the article to be deleted, claiming that it's just not important enough to be on Wikipedia. And there is currently an edit war going on. The senior editors are trying to basically just fill the article full of disinformation to try to make it seem like it's not important at all. One of the interesting revelations from the Twitter Files is that the decision to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story and suspend the New York Post from Twitter and Kayleigh McEnany, then White House press secretary, was made exclusively by Vijaya Gotti, who kept Jack Dorsey, the CEO at the time, completely out of the loop, because Jack Dorsey had intervened in order to prevent them from making moderation and suspension decisions in the past, and they wanted that information to be censored, and so Vijaya Gotti didn't even include him in the decision and made it behind his back. The Operation Mockingbird assets then received their talking points from their handlers that they were to smear Matt Taibbi, an independent journalist who was given exclusive access to the Twitter files from Elon, as doing, quote, PR work for the world's richest man. And they all repeated the line. Everybody from MSNBC, NBC, the New York Post, the New York Times. That was the tweet of the day, that he's doing PR work for the world's richest man. PR work for the world's richest man. PR work for the world's richest man. Yoel Roth, who was one of the senior censors at Twitter before he resigned or got fired, posted on his Mastodon account. Mastodon is sort of like a Twitter clone for losers. A lot of the leftists have went and joined Mastodon, claiming that they're quitting Twitter. Of course, they never will, but he posted on his Mastodon account that publicly posting the names and identities of frontline employees involved in content moderation, censoring, puts them in harm's way and is a fundamentally unacceptable thing to do. Here he is talking about how the Babylon Bee making fun of the transgender senior health secretary Rachel Levine is not only not funny, but it's dangerous.
And so, yeah, not only is it not funny, but it is dangerous, and it does contribute to an environment that makes people unsafe in the world. So let's start from a premise that it's up. But then, again, let's look at what Twitter's written policies are. Twitter's written policies prohibit misgendering, full stop. And the Babylon Bee, in the name of satire, misgendered Admiral Rachel Levine. Twitter, nominally, but it's still misgendering.
Okay.
After USA Today nominated Rachel Levine as one of the Women of the Year, the Babylon Bee then nominated that carbon-based life form as Man of the Year, and that's why they got suspended or locked out of their account. And that really was the tipping point that pushed Elon Musk over the edge and made him decide to buy it.
There can be a very long and academic discussion of satire and sort of the lines there.
Speaking of academics, this individual is a doctor. He earned his PhD, not in computer science or anything having to do with technology at all, but, and I'm not kidding, I thought this was a joke when I first heard it, but it's 100% true. He wrote his PhD about his experiences using the gay hookup app Grindr. Speaking of LGBTQ people, by the way, one of the issues the liberal media is doing their best to try to ignore are all of the stories about the detransitioners. Those are people who once identified as transgender, but then later detransitioned back to their biological sex. Like the former Navy SEAL who was a big star for transitioning and wrote a book about it, and now says that he was pulled into a cult and is denouncing the gender-bending propaganda aimed at children. There's even a Wikipedia page about him, which is using the wrong name because he no longer goes by Kristen. His name is Chris. But you're not supposed to talk about all of the detransitioners. You're especially not supposed to ask what is causing people to become transgender or to believe or feel transgender in the first place. You're not allowed to say that it's a mental disorder. That's considered to be hate speech. That's a violation of the terms of service on all of the major platforms. You're also not allowed, I don't think, to call it a birth defect because then you're saying that they're defective, and that's hate speech, that's dehumanizing. So instead, you're supposed to only say that there's no difference between somebody wanting to identify as transgender than there is somebody who decides that they're left-handed instead of right-handed. You're also not supposed to talk about the chemicals in the water like atrazine because, well, that would mean that Alex Jones is right. Again, especially not supposed to talk about BPA, bisphenol A, the chemical that's put into a lot of plastics, including food packaging, which is known to cause birth defects. It's a synthetic estrogen, so it interferes with the estrogen levels in the womb, which some scientists believe is having certain effects on the brain that then affects people's sexual orientation and gender identity, but you're not supposed to talk about that. But you could talk about all that and pretty much anything back in the good old days, back in 2016. But all that changed after Donald Trump had his upset victory over Hillary Clinton, shocking the establishment. And then the legacy media companies started colluding with the big tech companies, and all the algorithms, all the filters, all the censorship began. And the rest is history. What Elon is doing to Twitter is not black and white. So when he does good things, I'm going to celebrate it. When he makes terrible decisions, I'm going to call him out and denounce him. Reinstating Donald Trump's account? Fantastic. Not reinstating Steve Bannon's account or Carpe Donktum's yet, and a bunch of other popular Republicans? Not so good. Banning Kanye West, claiming that he was inciting violence for posting literally just a symbol of the Raelian UFO cult. Pretty ridiculous. Not inciting violence. Posting bizarre symbols? Yes. Unhinged rants on Alex Jones' show? Yes. Inciting violence? Absolutely not. But openly calling for violence against white people, like this woman did, and celebrating violence against white people and against Christians, and posting hate speech against Christians, fully allowed. This tweet has been up for over 2 years, where she blatantly, obviously called for violence against white people and even suspected that she was going to get suspended for it. But, of course, the tweet remains. Speaking of symbols that may offend others, wearing my Trump Claw sweatshirt to Christmas dinner may do that depending on your relatives. So order yours soon because Christmas is coming just around the corner. And like all of my designs, it's available in a t-shirt, long sleeve, and a hoodie, and a nice sweatshirt, and a whole bunch of different colors as well. And be sure to stock up on a bunch of my other designs for Christmas gifts. So head on over to markdace.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.